7 lessons from millionaire entrepreneur Harsh, who started with nothing. The world often celebrates success but rarely talks about the storms behind it. Harsh's story was not just about money or fame, it was about pain, loneliness, betrayal, sleepless night, and above all, the courage to dream when everything around him seemed for give up. Harsh was born in a small town where life moved slowly. His father, Ramesh, was a school teacher with modest salary. His mother, Sunita, snitched clothes for neighbor to earn extra income. Their family of four lived in a tiny two-room house where the roof leaked during heavy rains and winter felt like punishment because the cold wind crept into through the every crack. Harsh had a younger sister, Neha, who looked up to like him. He was a superhero even when he had nothing to offer but a smile. From a young age, Harsh understood when financial struggle looked like. He saw his parents skipping meals so he and Neha could eat properly. He watched his father repair his old pair of shoes repeatedly because there was no money for a new one. He noticed how his mother hid her own desires like a simple sari she once saw in a market because saving for school fees was always the priority. But Harsh was different. He was not just a dreamer, he was restless soul. While other kids accepted life as it came, Harsh often questioned it. Why? Why can't we have a better house? He once asked his father innocently. His father sighed and said, because we can only afford what we have, beta. Dreams are good, but life doesn't always give you what you want. That line stayed with Harsh for years. Life doesn't always give you what you want. He hated it. He didn't want it to accept it. Somewhere deep inside, he promised himself that one day he would change that statement for himself, for his family, and maybe for others too. The first stage of struggle. School life was no easier. Harsh was a bright but often mocked because of his torn school bag or old uniform. Kids were wealthy parents carried expensive lunchbox. Harsh carried whatever his mother would prepare of limited supplies. Sometimes it was a dry chapati with a little pickle. One afternoon, when he was around 13, he overheard two classmates laughing at him. Look at his shoes. Look like they were pulled out of a dustbin, one said, smirking. Something burned inside him. He went home quietly, and that day he didn't cry. Instead, he asked his mother if he could work somewhere after school. Work? You are just 13, Harsh, she said in shock. I want to buy my own things, Mama. I don't want to depend on anyone. After days of convincing, his father allowed him to work at a local tea stall for 2 hours in the evening. It paid almost nothing, but Harsh didn't care. His first earning was 50 rupees. It felt like a treasure. He didn't spend it on himself. Instead, he bought sweet for his sister and a hair clip for his mother. That day, he discovered something powerful. Money may not buy happiness, but it could bring smiles, dignity, and choices. And he wanted more of it. By the time Harsh reached high school, his hunger to do something big had grown uncontrollably. But reality was cruel. His father's health started declining due to years of stress and overwork. Hospital bills piled up. Sometimes there wasn't money even for basic medicine. One evening, Harsh returned from school to find his mother sitting quietly in dark. Electricity bill. We couldn't pay this month, she said softly. They spent that night in darkness, eating cold food. Harsh lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling anger rise inside him, not at his parent, but at the life of helplessness. That day, the night, he decided, I will never live like this when I grow up. He started reading whatever books he could find, borrowed from libraries, second-hand stories, or sometimes free magazines from a train stations. He read about businesses, tycoons, investors, and leaders. He didn't always understand everything, but one thing became clear. All the successful people had one thing common: they never give up, no matter how bad it got. The first business idea. After finishing high school, reached high school. His hunger After finishing high school, Hers faced a tough choice. College fees were high and family condition was worse than ever. His father wanted him to study engineering, believing it was the only way to stable job. But Hirsch had a different plan brewing in his mind. During his tea-stall job, he noticed how small shops sold mobile accessories, cheap covers, chargers, earphones at almost double the price they got from wholesalers in city. What if I buy directly from the city market at a low price and sell here? I can earn a good profit, he thought. With barely 2000 rupees he had saved over 2 years, Hirsch took a bus to the nearest city, bought a small stock of mobile covers, and started selling them at the outside of college gates. At first, people laughed at him, said, "College student turned shopkeeper," someone joked. But Hirsch ignored them. Within a month, he made 6000 rupees. This wasn't a fortune, but it was 3 times his investment. For him, it was a proof business work if you dare to try. Failure strikes hard. Encouragement by small success, Hirsch decided to expand. He borrowed 10,000 rupees from a neighbor at high interest, promising him to return within 3 months. He planned to open a small rental shop for mobile accessories. But fate had another plan. A new electronics store opened nearby with huge capital, flashy banners, and massive discount. Within weeks, Hirsch's tiny shop almost lost in customers. He couldn't pay rent, the neighbor demanded the money back, and everything was going against him. But he was never scared at this time. He was trying to think something that could work for him as much as he could go. But Harsh ignored him. Within a month, he made 6000 rupees. For days, he avoided friends, skipped college, and stayed in his small room, staring at the ceiling. The weight of failure crushed him. But then, something unexpected happened. One rainy afternoon, while Hirsch sat under a bus stand roof, an old man selling books approached him. "Buy one, son. It's only 20 rupees, the man said, holding out of a half-torn book titled The Power of Persistence. Hirsch almost refused. He barely had money for tea, but sometimes about the title struck him. He bought it. That night, he read the entire book in one sitting. It was full of real stories of people who failed repeatedly before achieving success. One quote hit him deeply: "Fall 7 times and stand up 8 times. The next morning, Hirsch decided this is not how my story ends. The second attempt. Hirsch analyzed his failure carefully. He realized 3 mistakes. He invested all money in one shot without market research. He borrowed money without backup plans. He had no unique selling point. The big store easily crushed him. This time, he wanted to start something that didn't require heavy capital or direct competing with the big players. During the period, food delivery apps were just starting to become popular in cities. Hirsch noticed his town had many small food stalls but no delivery services. People often complained about the lack of home delivery option. What if I start a simple phone-based food delivery service, he thought. He convinced 2 food stall owners to partner with him. Customer could call Hirsch's number, place an order, and he would deliver it to old bicycle for a small fee. At first, orders were rare. Some days he earned nothing, but slowly word spread. Students in hostel loved the service. Office workers appreciated hot food delivering during lunch hour. Within 3 months, Hirsch was earning enough to support his family basic expenses. For the first time, he saw hope returning in his parents' tired eyes, but life was not done testing him. The storm before sunrise. The small food delivery service gave Harsh a taste of independence, but life wasn't done testing him yet. Success was coming slowly, drops of water filling a jar. He was earning enough to help home, pay old debts, and keep the business running. For the first time in years, Harsh's family slept peacefully at night. But the world has a strange way of shaking things up when you think it's a solid on ground. The betrayal. One afternoon, while Harsh was delivering food to college hostel, he noticed two men near his bicycle taking a low voices. They were delivering they were delivery boys from a new startup in nearby city. We are launching here next month. Big gap, big investor. Once we come in small pairs like this kid won't survive, one of them said, smirkling. Harsh froze. He knew exactly what they meant. A tech-based delivery app with funding would crush his small phone-based system. Customer would prefer flashy apps, discounts and fast service over his old bicycle delivery. Within weeks, it happened. The company launched a massive campaign poster everywhere, social media ads, even free delivery offers for the first month. Harsh's phone barely rang anymore. Orders dropped to almost zero. His two food stall partners slowly shifted to new company. They didn't even inform him. One day he went to the delivery food only to find the customers already eating the order he had came through the new app. The betrayal cut deeper than the first business failure. He trusted those stall owners like a family. One evening, Harsh sat alone near the lake outside. The sun was setting, painting and the sky in shades of orange and red. Why does this keep happening to me? He whispered in his voice breaking. He had nothing, no money, no business, no trust, and no family support. He was really tired of his life. He felt that he should give up now, but inner voice was not trying to give up. For 2 nights, Harsh couldn't sleep. Betrayal hurt more than failure. This was very much tiring for him. The bigger competitor are crushing him. He thought again his idea will be fall. The big idea and the big fall. Back home, Harsh noticed how farmers around his town struggled to sell vegetables at good prices. Middlemen bought cheap and sold high, leaving farmers helpless. What if I created a simple system where farmers sell directly to customer? He thought. With the little money he saved, he built a basic WhatsApp group system connecting farmers to local buyers. Ordering were placed directly and Harsh earned a small commission. At first, it worked brilliantly. Farmers were happy, customers were happy, and Harsh's family felt like he was building something meaningful. But success often attracts envy. A local trader who earlier controlled the vegetable supply saw Harsh as a threat. One night, unknown men damaged Harsh's small storage shed where vegetables were kept before delivery. Next morning, half the stock was ruined. Farmers blamed Harsh, customers complained about delays. Within a week, the system collapsed. Debt returned. This time was heavier than before. Harsh was 22 when he hit rock bottom. No business, no saving, a growing list of people demanding their money back. His father's health worsening again. His sister's college fees was overdue. One evening his mother said softly, "Maybe take a job, Harsh. At least we can survive." That night, Harsh locked himself in a room. He didn't cry, he didn't shout. He just said silently, staring at the wall, "Is this my life? Starting something, fail, start again and fail harder." He felt like a loser. The world echoed in his mind repeatedly, loser, loser, loser. But deep inside, a tiny voice whispered, this is not the end. Yet, the turning point. One day, while searching for online jobs, Harsh stumbled upon the free course of digital marketing. It promised skills to grow businesses online. He had never touched online marketing before, but sometime it felt right. He downloaded free PDF, watched YouTube tutorials late at night, practiced by promoting small shop in the town free. Within 3 months, Harsh learned enough to run basic online ads, create a social media pages, and design simple websites. That's when the idea struck. Instead of staring at other businesses blindly, why not help other businesses growing using my skills? No stock, no warehouses, no middleman, just skills and a laptop. Harsh borrowed an old laptop from a cousin, started offering a digital marketing services to local shop for a small fees. The first client paid 2000 rupees to create a Facebook page and run ads for a bakery. The bakery saw more customers in a week, and it was enough for him to see that digital marketing could work. Lessons from rock bottom. By the end of this phase, Harsh learned three powerful lessons. Skills are better than luck. Money can be lost, but skills can stay with me. Start small but with knowledge. Jumping blindly invites disaster. Failure are not the ending, they are just foundation for the next step. He didn't knew it yet. This was the beginning of the empire that he would become a millionaire in his life. The bakery success story spread like a wildfire in her small town. People surprised, isn't he the same guy who failed in 2-3 businesses already? Some whispered, yes, but now he's doing something with computers, something online, others replied. For Harsh, this was more than just work, it was redemption. After years being mocked as a failure, he was finally offering something valuable. Harsh decided to make things official. He named his small venture Sky Reach Digital because he wanted business to reach for the sky. He created a simple logo on a free website, printed basic visiting cards, and borrowed a friend with a scooter to a small shop visit. Sir, I can help you to bring customers to your store through Facebook and Google, he would say, showing result from the bakery campaign. Some refused, thinking it was a scam, but few took the risk. Within 3 months, Harsh had 10 small clients. He worked day and night running ads, designing posters, learning new techniques. Online, he barely slept, but he loved it. For the first time, his hard work was directly creating results. One day, when a clothing store doubled its sale after his campaign, the owner handed him an envelope with extra cash. You earned it. Keep it up, Harsh, the man said with a smile. Harsh went home and placed that envelope in front of his parents. His parents, who once believed like he doesn't want to work, he had tears in his eyes. The first betrayal. But success attracts both administration and envy. Harsh hired 2 part-time helpers as his workload increased. He trusted them completely, teaching them everything he knew, but within 6 months, both left suddenly, starting their own digital marketing services in the same town, taking 2 of his biggest clients with them. It felt like a knife in his back. For 2 nights, Harsh couldn't sleep. Betrayal hurt more than a failure because it came with a people he trusted. But this time, he didn't break down. He remembered Arvind's word from the seminar. Business will test you, people will leave, competitors will rise, winners kept building away anyway. Harsh decided never stop, just became someone else, tried to copy, expanding beyond the town. Instead of fighting with local competitors, Harsh started looking beyond the small town. He created profiles on online freelance platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, offering digital marketing services globally. At first, it was tough. Clients abroad didn't trust a young guy from India with no big company name, but Harsh offered a low prices, delivered projects on time, and slowly built a 5-star reviews. Within a year, he had a client from 3 different countries. His earning crossed everything he had ever made before. But money was only the part of story. For Harsh, the real victory was proving to himself that he wasn't just a loser. The dark phase returned. Just when things seemed perfect, life threw another storm at him. His father's health collapsed suddenly. Doctor said urgent surgery was needed, costing almost all the money Harsh had saved. Without thinking twice, Harsh paid for it. For 3 months, he managed clients during the day and spent nights at the hospital. Some clients left due to delays, income dropped sharply. One evening, sitting outside the hospital, Harsh felt life was snatching everything again. But when father slowly recovered, smiled, and said, I am proud of you, son, Harsh realized something were bigger than business. The comeback with bang. After his father's recovery, Harsh worked harder than ever. He upgraded his skills, learning SEO, marketing, and e-commerce advertising. He launched a channel teaching small businesses about digital marketing basics. It grew fast, bringing him new clients who trusted him because of free tutorials. Soon, a Delhi-based startup noticed his work, offered him a big project, running ads for the entire product line. The payment was 10 times bigger than any project before. Harsh hired a small team, rented a one-room office, and worked like crazy. The campaign began a huge success, doubling the startup sales in 2 months. The project changed everything. Harsh company, Skyridge Digital, started getting clients from Metro City. He was no longer the small town boy running ads and borrowed laptop. He was building a real company. The emotional homecoming. On his sister's Neha's birthday, Harsh surprised his family by gifting them a new house. It wasn't a mansion, but it was no leaking roof, no broken walls, no electric issues. His mother cried silently, touching the walls like they were made of gold. His father sat in a chair on the balcony looking at the sunset peacefully, no longer worried about the unpaid bills. Harsh stood there quietly, remembering the nights he had gone hungry and days people called him loser, the evening when betrayal and failure crushed him. The house wasn't just walls and bricks, it was a proof that dreams, no matter how impossible, could become true. Bigger dreams, bigger challenges, but Harsh wasn't satisfied. He wanted to build something bigger than just a small digital marketing agency. He studied e-commerce trends and realized thousands of small businesses struggle to sell products online. What if I create a platform for them? He thought. He used all his saving to develop a website, a marketplace for small town businesses to sell across India. But building a tech platform needed more money than he had. He pitched to investors, but he rejected multiple times. Some laughed at his small town background. For 6 months, Harsh faced rejection after rejection. He felt like giving up again. The breakthrough investor. One day, during business meetup in Delhi, Harsh met with Meera, an angel investor. Unlike others, she listened carefully to his idea. You remind me of myself when I started, she said after hearing the story. I will invest in your platform, but promise me one thing, you will never stop learning. With her funding, Harsh finally launched the platform. For the first 3 months were slow, but then word spread. Small shops, small towns, and villages signed up eagerly. Within a year, the platform had thousands of sellers. Harsh's company grew from a tiny office to a proper corporate space with 50 employees. The first core. The day his office crossed 1 crore in revenue, Harsh didn't throw a party. He simply went home, touched the parents' feet, and said, "This is for all the nights we stay hungry." His mother smiled through tears. His father, now healthier, said, "Life does what you want, beta. You proved me wrong." The millionaire mindsets and the final lessons. The day Harsh company crossed 1 crore in revenue was a local beginning. For the world, he had become a success story. Newspaper wrote about him. Local TV channels interviewed him as the boy who built a crore rupees from nothing. But Harsh knew the journey wasn't over. Success wasn't a final destination, it was another mountain, a peak that was taller peak ahead. The millionaire face. With Mira's investment, the Harsh relentless hard work, the platform grew exponentially. More small businesses joined, big brands started noticing him. Sometimes even he offered to buy company for a huge sum. But Harsh refused. "The company is my dream. I am not selling it just for money," he said firmly. Instead he expanded the platform to include logistic supports, digital payments, and training programs for small sellers. Within 2 years, the company valuation crossed 50 crores. At 27, Harsh became a self-made billionaire. The emotional full circle. One evening, standing at the balcony of the new corporate office, Harsh saw his father walk in slowly, holding a stick. His father looked at a tall building with pride. "Do you remember?" His father said softly, "The day you asked me why we didn't have a better house." Harsh smiled. "I remember, Papa." His father placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have given me more than a house, beta. You have given us a dignity." For Harsh, that moment meant more all the money he had. The last challenge. Just when everything seemed perfect, a global economic slowdown hit. Many small businesses on his platform shut down, revenues dropped sharply, investors panicked. Some advised selling the company before things got worse. For 2 months, Harsh slept barely. His entire team depended on him. His family looked up to him. He felt the same pressure he had felt years ago when the failure crushed him. But this time, Harsh wasn't the scared boy who sat near lakes crying. He had experience, skills, and courage now. He quickly provided editing essential goods sellers, launching home delivery tie-ups, and offering free digital training for struggling businesses. Within 6 months, the platform recovered and grew even stronger. The final victory. By the time Harsh turned 30, his company had expanded into multiple states, partnered with bigger logistic firms, and launched a mobile app with over $1 million. He was invited to speak at business schools, startup summits, and leadership conferences. Young entrepreneurs looked at him like a hero. But whenever someone asked about his billionaire startup, Harsh always smiled and said, "Money is just a byproduct. The real success is the journey, the nights you refuse to give up, the dreams you fight for when everyone calls you lazy and crazy." 7 lessons from Harsh's journey. As Harsh stood on the stage at a major startup summit one evening, he shared the 7 most powerful lessons from his journey. Start small, dream big, don't wait for perfect condition, begin with what you have. Harsh started with a bicycle and a borrowed laptop. Skills over circumstances. Money can be lost, but skills stay with you forever. Failure are teachers, not ending. Every failure as a teacher, it pushed harder and closer to the breakthrough. Learn, adapt, and move on. People will betray you, keep building anyway. Some employees left, Partner cheated, competitors mocked him, but winners focused on building, not blaming. Family is your real strength. Her sacrifices for his father's health and family support kept him going during the darkest days. 6. Adapt and die. When the economics slowed, Hirsch changed his business model instead of waiting for the things to improve. Success is the journey, not just the money. Becoming a millionaire was great, but the struggle, lessons, and growth along they matter more. The unique startup story of Vikas. Vikas was an ordinary man born in small town where opportunity seemed to end with the boundaries of the streets. His family lived in the modest house filled with love but burned with financial struggles. His father was a school teacher who earned just enough to feed the family and pay basic bills, while his mother managed the home with patience and grace. Growing up, Vikas always saw his parents sacrificing their own needs to provide for him and his younger sister. This gave him a deep sense of responsibility and a burning desire to create something better, not just for himself but for everyone who believed in him. From his school days, Vikas was different. He wasn't the brightest in class, but he had a mind that never stopped asking questions. While the classmates memorized answers for exam, Vikas would often ask his teachers why things worked the way they did. He wasn't interested in shortcuts, he was interested in understanding the bigger picture. His curiosity, some things annoyed his teachers, but some of them noticed his hunger to learn beyond books. When he turned 16, he had started reading stories of successful entrepreneurs, people who had built empires from nothing. He devoured every magazine and article he could find in the library. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Ratan Tata, Dhirubhai Ambani. These names became like guiding lights in the imagination. He didn't want to just read about them, he wanted to create his own story one day. A story that people would remember. But deep inside, he feared if someone from his small town could ever achieve something that grand. After finishing school, Vikas got admission to a decent college in the nearby city. His father had to borrow money to pay the admission fees. But he told Vikas, "This is not just your education, it's an investment in your future." The words struck in his heart. Vikas promised himself he would not let his father's sacrifice go in vain. College life opened a new world for him. He was surrounded by students from big cities. Many of them were rich background. At first, Vikas felt small, almost invisible in the crowd. His clothes were simple, his accent was not polished, and he couldn't relate to the casual conversation between and about luxury cars, foreign trips, and high-end gadgets. But instead of feeling jealous, he quietly observed. He realized that while he couldn't match their lifestyle, but he could outwork them in passion and persistence. During his first year, he discovered that internet's true power. He would spend long nights in computer lab learning everything he could learn about technology, digital marketing and startups. The ideas of building something from scratch and reaching millions through the internet fascinated him. He tried small things, blogging, affiliate marketing and reselling second-hand books online, but none of them gave him the breakthrough and hoped for. Still, each failure taught him something valuable. By the second year of college, Vikas' financial struggle grew deeper. His father's health started declining and medicine's expense drained a little saving they had. By the time Vikas thought of quitting college and support his family, but his mother encouraged him not to give up. She told him, "Your education is our hope. Finish what you started." Those words became his anchor. It was during the low phase that Vikas had his first major turning point. One evening, as he sat in the campus cafe with just one cup of tea he could barely afford, he overheard two seniors discussing how they were building an app for local businesses. They were excited about how even a small shop could reach customers online. Something clicked in Vikas' mind. He thought about his own town where shopkeepers still relied on the word of mouth or physical presence to sell. None of them had any online presence. He thought, what if he could build a platform that connected these small town businesses with customers? The idea refused to live in his head. That night, he sketched a rough plan in his notebook. He didn't know coding, he didn't know investors, he didn't even know how startup raised money, but he knew that there was a problem and he wanted to solve it. He named his idea Town Cart, a simple marketplace app for a small towns. The next few weeks became obsessive. He skipped parties, missed calls, and spent nights reading about the development and business models. He found free course online that taught him basics of coding. He reached out to his computer science classmates, convincing them to help him to build their first version of the app. At first, most of them laughed at him. They didn't believe a small town boy with no resources could do something big. But two of them, impressed by passion, agreed to join him. Together they started working from their hostel rooms. It wasn't easy, the internet was slow, the laptops were old, and money was always the problem. Because often skipped meals to save money for internet recharge, his mother worried about his health wherever he visited home, but he would just smile and say, I am fine, Mama. One day, all this will be worth it. After months of sleepless nights, they finally launched the first version of Town Cart in the form of Perfect. It crashed often, had bugs, and looked outdated, but it was a beginning. Vikas convinced a few shopkeepers in his hometown to try it. He personally went door to door, explaining how they could list their products and reach more customers or consumers. Most shopkeepers were skeptical. Some even mocked him, saying, why will people use a phone when they can just come to my shop? But a handful of young shop owners agreed to experiment. For weeks, there were hardly any downloads. Vikas felt crushed. He questioned himself. Was his dream like just an illusion? Was he chasing something that's impossible? But then slowly, orders started growing. A college student ordered books through Town Cart, a working woman ordered groceries, and a young man ordered clothes for his sister's wedding. Every single order felt like a victory. Vikas celebrated each milestone with his two co-founders. They didn't have money or fancy dinners, or they bought a samosas and tea from a street stall, raising their paper cups like it was a campaign. Those little celebrations gave them hope. But success also brought new challenges. Managing deliveries, handling complaints, and fixing app issues became overwhelming. Without proper funding, they struggled to keep the platform alive. At one point, one of his co-founders decided to quit, saying this dream wasn't practical. Vikas felt betrayal but didn't stop. He promised himself he would fight alone if needed. By his final first year of college, Towncart had about 2,000 users and nearly 100 shopkeepers on board. It wasn't huge, but it was a proof that his idea had potential. Investors still didn't take him seriously, but Vikas had something more valuable. It was belief. The real storm came after the college. With no campus placement and no family wealth, Vikas faced the harsh reality of life. His father's health worsened and hospital bills piled up. Relatives suggest he forgot his startup dream and take a stable job. For weeks, Vikas battled with himself. Should he sacrifice his dream for survival? Or should he risk everything and chase the vision he believed in? One night, standing outside the hospital where his father was admitted, Vikas made a silent promise. I will not give up. I will build this company, and one day people will know the name of Town Cart. His eyes were wet, but his heart was firm. That decision marked the two beginning of journey. He was no longer just a dreamer, he was fighter and ready to walk through fire on his dream. And as soon as the world was about to find out, this was only the beginning. The decision Vikas made outside the hospital changed everything. He had chosen the hardened path, that uncertain road where failure was more common than success. Yet deep inside, he believed that destiny only favored those who had courage to walk against the storm. But choosing a dream didn't magically solve his problem. The next few months were the toughest of his life. His father's condition required continuous treatment and hospital expense drained every single rupee. Vikas spent his day running between hospital, home, and small freelance work he picked up online to keep his family afloat. At night, when everyone slept, he worked on town cart. His body was exhausted, but his mind refused to stop. The first challenge was funding. Without money, he couldn't improve the app or hire delivery staff. He applied for every startup pitch competition he could find. Many times he wasn't even shortlisted. Other times he presented passionately, but judges dismissed his idea as too small or not scalable. Each rejection cut him deeply, but he refused to let it define him. One day, after yet another rejection at a startup event, Vikas sat outside the venue of the pavement holding the rejection letter in his hand. About him, other participants celebrated with investors laughing and exchanged business cards. He felt invisible, like an outsider in the world that didn't want him. For a moment, he thought about quitting, but then a memory came back. His father telling him, "Your education is an investment." He realized town court was the real education, his real test. If he quit now, everything would be wasted. Determined, he would found another way. Instead of chasing big investor, he turned to the very people he wanted to serve. The shopkeepers. He went from store to store, explaining how their small contribution could help him scale the app. Many rejected him, some laughed at him, but a handful agreed to pay small monthly fees to be on town cart. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep the servers running. To solve deliveries, Vikas partnered with local college students who owned bikes. He promised them small payment for each delivery. Most agreed, not because of money, because they believed in his passion. Slowly, a network formed, shopkeeper, student, and determined young man holding it all together. But success came with own set of trials. As town carts started gaining attention, bigger players noticed a regional e-commerce company launched aggressively campaigns in Vikas town. Offers heavy discount and free deliveries. Overnight, many shopkeepers who had joined town cart lured by bigger companies' resources. Vikas felt crushed. He couldn't. He could fight against the billions of funding. For weeks, he barely slept. Orders dropped, revenue fell, and his team shrank. Even the student who helped with delivery started leaving because there was no money. Alone in this room, Vikas started at his laptop wondering if it was the end. But deep inside, something told him a giant can never underestimate the heart of a small town the way he did. He shifted strategy. Instead of competing with discount, he focused on building personal trust. He went to shopkeepers' homes, met their families, listened to their struggles, and promised them loyalty. He assured customers that town quant was the by the town for the town. Slowly, people started returning, realizing the bigger company couldn't provide the personal connection Vikas did. During this phase, another test came. His father's health worsened, and doctors said surgery was the only hope. The cost was far beyond the Vikas could afford. For the first time, he broke down completely. Sitting outside the hospital, he cried silently, feeling powerless. He even considered giving up town cart to take a stable job just to save his father. But when he shared this with his mother, she held his hand and said, "Don't kill your dreams. If your father could speak, he would tell you to fight." This word reignited his spirit. He launched a crowdfunding campaign online sharing his father's story and his own startup journey. The response shocked him. Strangers contributed Friends shared, and even some shopkeepers donated. The surgery was successful, and his father survived. For Vikas, this wasn't just about saving his father's life, it was a proof that when you give your heart, the world gives back. Fueled by this miracle, Vikas poured all his energy into Town Cart again. He restructured the app, making it smoother and easier to use. He introduced features like urgent delivery for essentials and shopkeeper reviews to build trust. He also credited a loyalty program where customers earned a small reward for repeat order. This simple innovation attracted more users. By the end of the year, TownCart had grown 10,000 active users across 3 towns. For the first time, small town shopkeepers felt empowered. Vikas told Vic, because of your app, I can now compete with bigger stores. These words gave him strength to dream even bigger. But life wasn't done testing him. When just the things seemed stable, one of his closest friends, who had helped build an app, betrayed him. That friend secretly met investor and pitched the same idea under a different name. When Vikas found out, it felt like a knife in his back. He confronted him, but her friend coldly replied, dreams don't matter, money does. For days, Vikas couldn't eat or sleep. He had lost someone he trusted like a brother. Instead of breaking, he turned the path into fuel. He realized betrayal is the part of every great journey, he told himself. If my dream can be stolen, it means it is valuable, and if it's valuable, I must protect it with everything I have. He branded Town Cart, giving it a new design and a new vision. He built a small but a loyal team, people who believed in him not just for money, just for passion. Together they worked day and night, expanding to 5 towns. Vikas' story slowly started making noise in the startup ecosystem. He was invited to speak at a small entrepreneurship event. Nervously, he stood on the stage, telling his journey, his failures, struggling, betrayals, and small victories. When he finished, the audience gave him the standing ovation. For the first time, Vikas realized his story wasn't just about the business, it was a hope. That evening, an angel investor approached him, saying, I don't know if your company will become a unicorn, but I believe in you. I will invest in you. Tears filled Vikas' eyes. After years of rejection, someone finally saw what he saw. With the funding, he hired better developers, improved logistics, and expanded to 10 towns. Revenues grew, customers increased, and shopkeepers started seeing real profits. Town Cart was no longer just a struggling idea, it was becoming a movement. Yet, deep inside, Vikas knew this was only the beginning. He had survived storm, betrayal, and near collapse. But the bigger battles awaited. The path to building something unique was a long, and he was ready to walk it, no matter how hard it became. Because for Vikas, TownCart wasn't just a startup, it was a promise to his family, to his town, and to himself. And that promise was unbreakable. When the first angel investor arrived, it felt like the dark clouds of Vikas' life had finally begun to clear. For the first time, there was stability. He could pay his team, improve the app, and even contribute to his father's ongoing treatment without begging or borrowing. But more than money, the investment that gave him something had been craved for years, validation. Someone beyond his family, beyond his small town. He had looked into his eyes and said, I believe in you. The faith was priceless. But Vikas knew well enough that funding was not just the end of his problem, it was only the beginning of the new ones. With money came expectations, pressure to grow fast, and competition that sharpened its claws even more fiercely. Bigger e-commerce platforms started noticing TownCart expansion into small towns. They began offering deeper discounts and many more things that Vikas couldn't offer. The faith was priceless. He called a late night meeting with a small team, they said, in a tiny rented office with peeling paint of flickering lights, but the energy of the room was brighter than anything money could buy. Vikas looked at them and said, "We can't bend them in money, but we can beat them in trust. Our strength is not discounts, our strength is connection. We know the names of our shopkeepers, we know the stories, we know the families. That is something no giant can ever copy." The team nodded, their eyes filled with fire. They agreed to fight not just as a company, but as a family, building trust as a weapon. Vikas launched a company called Apna Bazaar, Apna App, Our Market, Our App. The campaign highlighted real shopkeepers and families, showing how Town Cart has changed the life. Simple videos of grocers saying, "Now I sell more than before because of this app," touched the heart more than any celebrity advertisement could. Customers began to realize that using Town Cart wasn't just about convenience, it was about supporting their own community. Orders started increasing again. More shopkeepers returned, apologizing for leaving earlier, saying they realized no big company cared for them that the way Vikas did. With every returning partner, Vikas belief grew stronger. Business built on trust lasts longer, and the business built on discounts. But challenges didn't end. Logistics became a nightmare as the app expanded, deliveries failed. Customers complained and competitors mocked them online. Vikas worked tirelessly, sometimes delivering order himself when no rider was available. On one rainy night, the streets were flooded. He personally delivered medicine to an elderly customer because no one else could. The customer's family later told him, "You are not just running a business, you are saving lives." Those words became the fuel for his soul. Just when things were gaining momentum, tragedy struck again. A technical glitch caused the servers to crash during a major festival sale. For 3 full days, the app was down, thousands of customers couldn't place orders, shopkeepers panicked, and social media exploded with criticism. Competitors used the opportunity to lure customers away, spreading rumors that Town Cart was shutting down. Vikas didn't sleep for those 3 days. He sat with the developers, coding, fixing, testing, begging his friends, and tried them push harder. On the fourth day, the app came back online, but the damage was done. Sales dropped by 40%. Investors grew restless, and whispers began about whether Vikas was capable to leading a fast-growing company. He was shattered. For the first time, he locked himself in his room and didn't come out for 2 days. His mother knocked on the door, reminding him all the battles he had already survived. Finally, on the third morning, he walked out, eyes swollen but the spirit unbroken. He gathered his team and admitted, "We failed. But the failure is the part of growth. If we can survive the storm, we will survive anything." His honesty inspired his team, and they got back to the work with renewed determination. The turning point. Months later, Vikas got a surprising call. A well-known journalist wanted to feature Town Cart in a story about small town startups making big impacts. At first, Vikas thought it was a prank, but soon his story approached leading national newspaper. The headline, "From a small town to big dreams, the boy who built a startup for the forgotten markets." The article went viral. Suddenly, people across the country were talking about Town Cart. Messages of supporting poured in. And investors who once rejected him now wanted meetings. For Vikas, it wasn't just a fame, it was a proof that his pain, his sacrifices, and his sleepless night had a meaning. One particular email changed everything. A large venture capital firm offered to invest a significant sum to scale Town Cart nationwide. When Vikas read the email, His hand trembled. He remembered the nights of skipping meals, the humiliation of rejection and betrayal of his friend, the tears outside hospitals. All of this had led to the momentum. But along with the excitement came fear. Accepting big funds meant losing some control, facing even bigger competition, and shouldering more pressure. After long discussions with his mother and his loyal team, Vikas decided to take the leap. If we want to make the difference, we can't stay small forever, he said, scaling the dream. With new funding, Towncart expanded aggressively. They entered dozens of towns, hired hundreds of delivery riders, and built regional warehouses. For the first time, shopkeepers from distant corners of the country were empowered by technology. Story flooded in of a vegetable seller doubling his income, a tailor reaching new customers, a small bookstore surviving because of online sales. Each story reminded Vikas why he started his journey. But with growth came new enemies. Established e-commerce giants now watched Towncart as a real threat. They launched lawsuits accusing the company of copying features. They offered massive discounts in the towns where Towncart was popular, trying to crush them finally. Rumors about Towncart was inevitable failure spread like wildfire and a wildfire. The presence was immense. But Vikas had changed. He was no longer the timid boy who once sat alone on a pavement with a rejection letter. He was a leader who had walked through fire and survived. He faced the challenges head on, often standing in front of his worried team and saying, "We are not just a company, we are the revolution, and revolution don't die this easily." Amid all the chaos, Vikas' personal life took a backseat. His friend often complained that he had never time for them. He missed weddings, birthdays, and even festivals at home. His younger sister, who once adored him, sometimes felt neglected. His mother quietly endured his absence, though she longed for a simple family dinners. Late one night, exhausted after a 16-hour workday, Vikas looked at an old family photograph on his desk. His father, now recovering, smiled in a picture, and his mother, eyes radiated with warmth, and his sister clung with him with pride. Tears filled up in his eyes as he realized how much he was sacrificing. But he also knew he wasn't just for himself, he was doing it for them. And for every small town dreamer who thought success was only the rich. Recognition the new heights. 2 years after the angel investment, Towncart was no longer a struggling startup. It was recognized the name in hundreds of towns. Vikas was invited to international conference, honored with awards and featured in magazines. People started calling him the voice of small town India. But despite the applause, they remained grounded. He still visited the small shop, still listened to complaints personally, and still celebrated small wins with the teas and samosa. He told his team, "We will never forget where we came from. The day we forget our roots, we will lose everything." The next big twist. Just when everything seemed to be going perfect, disaster struck again. One of the investors who had bucked Towncart pushed for a merger with a bigger company, promising higher profits and faster growth. But Vikas sensed danger. The merger would mean losing independence, losing the very identity of Towncart. When he refused, the investor threatened to pull out, risking the company's financial health. The board was divided, his team was scared, and once again Vikas stood at a crossroad. Should he give in to the survive, or should he fight and protect his dream? He chose to fight. Even if we fall, we will fall with dignity, he declared. The battle with investors became ugly. Lawsuits were filed, funding were blocked, and newspaper painted Towncard as a sinking ship. For months, Vikas faced the toughest storm of his life. But instead of breaking, he grew sharper, stronger, and more determined. He reached out to the loyal consumers, some shopkeepers, and supportive investors. It was a risky move, but it saved Towncart. More importantly, it raised a soul. By the end of the phase, Vikas had transformed a struggling dreamer into a true leader. He had faced betrayals, battlegrounds, and with giants, yet he didn't rise again and again, proving that resilience was stronger than any storm. But the journey was not over yet. A bigger destiny awaited him, one that would test not just his business skills but his very identity. The legacy of Dream. The storm with the investor had left Vikas drained but also stronger than ever before. He just had fought to keep Town Cart alive, not just as a company but as a symbol of small town resilience. When the dust settled, he sat in his office late at night, staring at the skyline of the city far bigger than the ones he was born in. He thought of his journey, his father's sacrifices, his mother's words, and betrayals that break down him. He whispered to himself, "This is not the end, this is just a beginning." With stability restored, Towncart began expanding rapidly across the country. In the small towns and semi-urban areas, it became the go-to platform. Shopkeeper trusted it. Customers felt the connected to it, and the name of Towncart slowly turned into the household word. Vikas traveled constantly, keep shopkeepers in dusty markets, speaking at conferences in shiny auditoriums, and inspiring college students with his story. Everywhere he went, he carried the same message: dream don't belong only to the cities, it belongs to anyone with courage. Yet, with the growth came new problems. Competitors grow even new aggressively. International companies with unlimited resources launched campaigns to capture the same markets. Some media outlets began questioning whether Towncout could survive the long run. Investor pressured Vikas to change his business model to chase quick profit, but he resisted. "We are not building for today," he told them. "We are building for generations." 3 years into the national expansion, a sudden crisis hit. A major data breach occurred. Hackers stole users' data and news spread like wildfire. Customers panicked, trust wavered, and critics called it a beginning of Towncart's downfall. Social media exploded with anger, investors threatened to pull out, and shopkeepers demanded answers. For days, Vikas felt like he was drowning. The same media that once praised him now tore him apart. He faced endless interviews, lawsuits, and public outrage. At one point, his own team wondered if the company could ever recover. But Vikas refused to run away. He stood before the cameras and admitted responsibility. "We failed you," he said with tears in his eyes, "but we will not hide. We will rebuild stronger, safer, and better." Slowly, the tide began to turn. Customers who once left started returning, saying, "At least he told the truth. At least he stood for us." The recovery took months, but it became one of the greatest lessons of his journey that trust is not built in good times, it is tested in bad times. The recognition. Years passed, Towncart grew into one of the largest community-driven e-commerce platforms in the country. Unlike giants focused on only profit, Towncart became known as the people's company. It gave small shopkeeper dignity, provided employment to thousands, and inspired countless young dreamers. Vikas himself became a symbol of home, and he invited to global stages, honored with awards and praised by leaders. Once standing on an international stage, he shared his story. As he finished, the audience gave him a long standing ovation, but in that applause, he only thought of one thing: his father sitting in a small home, smiling proudly. When he returned home after the trip, his father, now older but healthier, hugged him and said, "You kept the promise." Tears rolled down Vikas' cheeks has been whispered, "No, Papa, we kept the promise together." The legacy. Years later, Vikas stood at the inauguration of Town Cart's new headquarters, a tall glass building that symbolized the year of sweat, sacrifice, and survival. But more than building, he looked at the people, shopkeepers, riders, employees, investors, and customers, smiling, clapping, celebrating. He realized Town Cart was never just his story, it was theirs. In his speech, he said, "When I started, I was just a small town boy with a dream. Everyone said it was impossible, but today we stand here because we delivered." Remember this, dreams are not defined by your birthplace, your money, or your background. Dreams are defined by your courage to keep going no matter how storms you face. That night, sitting alone in his office, Vikas looked out to the window at the city lights. He closed his eyes and whispered, "The boy who once sat outside a hospital with nothing now has everything. But the greatest wealth I have is not the money, it's the belief that nothing is impossible." And with that, Vikas' story became more than just a startup, it became a legacy. A reminder that one man's courage can ignite millions of dreams.